Welcome to the ninth part of King Harald Finehair's saga. And today I'll be reading my translation of the chapters on King Harald's voyage to Tønsberg, his battle in the Gautlands, and the fall of Rane the Gaut. And as usual, there'll be a little bit commentary on how I translate some terms and also on geography and such. So King Harald's voyage to Tønsberg. That winter, King Harald traveled to Tønsberg to his ships, where he prepared them and sailed out east in the fjord. He then conquered all of Vingulmark. He was out with warship the whole winter, raiding in Ranarike. And the Vingulmark here are the areas in the inner part of the Oslo fjord, on the west and east side, going south of what today is Oslo, including the Oslo areas. And warship is just a very literal translation of being out with warship from the Norse, and it's such a specific term that I just translate it literally. Ranarike, that's what would be called like southern parts of Østfold today, so where cities like Fredrikstad and Halden and such are situated, and also Svinesund, going south into what is Bohuslän in Sweden today, but staying north of Västgötaland, the western Götaland. And these areas were also called Alfheim. So says Torbjørn Hornklove, then a toast for Yule at sea. If he alone should decide, the ambitious leader, and practice at phrase sports. The young one grew tired of warm porridge, dwelling inside, the warmth of a woman, and mittens filled with down. So here's a short kval poem on King Harald's disposition in these days. So Yule is Christmas, of course. It's still called Yule in the northern Europe, in Scandinavia. And you can also say Yule in English, so that's what a toast for Yule at sea. It's like a toast for Christmas. And if it was up to King Harald, he would stay at sea and stay in warfare. Practice at phrase sports. This is practicing warfare, engaging in warfare. The young one here is King Harald, and he grew tired of warm porridge. Porridge is like a translation. Like that type of that word can often means porridge, but it can also mean like when you cook something. Generally, when you cook something a long time in a casserole. And so he's tired of warm food, staying inside, and he derives no fun out of the warmth of a woman, neither the coziness of mittens filled with down. And the chapter ends with the Gauts were gathering against him, far and wide in the country. So this is a further south they were gathering. Because in the last chapter there was still, King Harald was still vying over control over these areas going into Gautland, so further south in what is today Sweden. Chapter 17. Battle in the Gautlands. During spring, when the ice was loosening in the rivers, the Gauts stuck poles in Gautelvi, so King Harald wouldn't be able to travel up into the country with his ships. Gautelvi is the Götaelv, the river running up through modern-day Gothenburg up to Vänern. So King Harald wouldn't be able to travel up into the country with his ships. King Harald sailed his ships up the river and laid in where the poles were set. There he raided on both sides of the river and burned down the villages. So says Hornklove. The feeder forced the battle, fighting for the southern seas. Was the Gramer God guarded, while conquering men and the lands. And the helmet tamer, the warlord, the shore serpent, he let the wrathful linden stag by the beach proudly moored to the poles. So there are quite a few kennings here. The feeder forced the battle. The feeder here is Harald. He provides for his country. He forced the battle, fighting for the southern seas. So this points to the southern areas south of Norway, south of his primary areas. Was the Gramer God guarded? And Gramer is an old term in the Norse for king or high general and warlord. And he is guarded by the gods, while he conquers men and the lands. So these are the lands around Gautelvi. And the helmet tamer is a warlord. He's used to wearing the helmet. The warlord, the shore serpent. This is another kenning, actually connected to the helms. The helmet tamer kenning. But it's a kenning for King Harald here. He let the wrathful linden stag by the beach proudly moored to the poles. And the linden stag is his ship. Linden as in wood, and stag as in the animal. To the beach, proudly moored to the poles. After this, the Gauts rode down with a great army and held battle with King Harald. And there was a great slaughter, and King Harald held the victory. So says Hornklove. With might the battle axes were swung, and roaring to the wailing of spears. Polished black they bit at men, the swords of the Skjod King's host, when he, the courageous one, won against the Gauts. Loud they sang about the necks of men, of victory, the high-flying spears. And the Skjod King, for those who haven't seen my Ynglinga Saga series, Skjod is the old word in the Nordic countries for a nation. And it's the same word you find in Theodoric and other Germanic names, like Theodoric the Great, who was emperor for a short while over the Western Northern Empire out of Ravenna. Thjod, there is the same word as Skjod. So it's an Old Norse or also Germanic term for nation. The fall of Rane the Gaut. King Harald went with war shield far and wide around Gautland, and held many battles there on both sides of the river, and he most often held the victory. So here he is on land. When he's on ocean, it's with warship, and on land with war shield. And these are, I'm translating very directly because it's a common term, and once you get used to it, it covers the meanings that are in the Norse. So war shield. King Harald went with war shield far and wide around Gautland, and held many battles there on both sides of the river, and he most often held the victory. In one battle, Rane the Gaut fell. After this, King Harald conquered all the lands north of the river and west of Vänern, including all of Värmland. When he left that area, he let General Guttorm stay with a great army to guard the lands. The king traveled to Uppland and stayed there for a while. After this, he traveled north over Dovre Mountain to Trondheim and stayed there for a long while. King Harald then had children. He and Åsa had these sons: Guttorm, who was the oldest, Halfdan the Black, Halfdan the White, they were twins, and Sigfred, who was the fourth one. They were all raised in Trondheim with great honor. So now King Harald has established himself with a very large kingdom everything west of Vänern and south of Vänern, going up along the coast, and up to Trondheim, north of Trondheim, down along the coast to Møre. He, both north and south Møre, and into Sogn, he now controls. And large tracts of inland Norway, stopping at Telemark. He does not have Telemark, and also the western parts of Agder he hasn't consolidated, so Agder isn't completely his. I would think when he was out of country in Agder, he didn't actually control it. Even though he has a very direct hereditary claim through on his grandmother's side, and through Halfdan the Black. He has a direct claim to Agder. But even without Agder, his lands are really substantial now. I think that's that for this time. And yeah, remind you again of the genealogy, which is following all these saga translations. You can see all the relationships and see, like for example now, with why King Harald has a claim to Agder. And yeah, it's just a nice resource. If you have any criticisms or suggestions or anything, please leave it in the comments. I try to reply on the comments as quick as I can. And if you like the content, so feel free to subscribe, and hope you join me for another video.